Yo, excuse me, man. That's crazy. Welcome back to the Mortgage Mayhem Podcast, the show where real estate meets real life, and we pull back the curtains on the madness driving today's market. I'm your humble host, G Money, and today's headlines are wild. We've got deportation scandal, disappearing diversity in DC, HOAs targeting 5-year-olds. Plus, I'm giving you 4 cutting edge mortgage and real estate hacks that even pros haven't caught on to yet. And later, we're going to do a deep dive on Credit TC LLC, the quick transaction company rewriting how deals get done. So before we get started, let's do a little house cleaning real quick and then we'll get into it.
Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem Podcast, where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. We break down the deals, the drama, and the data behind the scenes of real estate finance, with a twist of street smarts, savvy, and a touch of madness. Before we dive in, here's the deal. The Mortgage Mayhem Podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Welcome to.
Okay. Hopefully everybody got that. Make sure you reach out to your professional people before you make any financial decisions. We was out last week. I was dealing with some sinus craziness for the first time in my life. And it just kind of took me under. And I just want to still kind of dealing with it a little bit, but I wanted to come on and kind of get to it. Since we missed last week, I didn't want to have us 2 weeks in a row. So we're back and we're looking forward to getting to this. Let me get to where I need to go, folks, and then we'll get this thing started. For some reason, just give me 1 second here, my peoples. Okay, here we go. That's where we want to be. What is that? 3, 6, 9, 10. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get into this. Let's talk about. Okay. Where are we at? Okay, so let's talk about this. I just wanted to touch bases on a Nigerian man deported by ICE to Ghana told the Associated Press he was subject to inhumane treatments by agent and kept in restraints for the entire flight from the United States to Ghana. The man, who remained anonymous, said he was woken in the middle of the night, shackled, and told he was being deported to Ghana. The ICE agents refused to let him speak to his attorney. He and other deportees were quickly placed in full-body restraint known as the wrap, leaving them unable to move their hands or feet for the duration of the flight. The black and yellow device has been used on multiple detainees this year, according to the Associated Press. The Department of Homeland Security has previously raised concern about its safety, warning that the restraints could lead to fatal outcomes. Wow. I mean, just look at this thing. It's crazy. It looks like the joints that the athletes put on their legs in order to, recuperate or recover from, the night before. Look, this is how I feel about it. It's really, it's tough to say if this is good or bad because, you don't want folks that's already under distress to act out in the middle of whatever it is that they're going through, unfortunately, right? But I think there's a better way to do it. You already got people out here feeling inhumane, and this doesn't help to help the cause at all. So there's really nothing anybody can do about this. I mean, you could keep talking about it, keep bringing it up in hopes that, they'll cut away from it. But at this point, I don't care what you say or what you do. This particular government is going to do what they going to do. So if you're thinking that just because you scream and holler about the antics that they're up to, that those antics is just going to go away, you got another thing coming. These guys are locked and loaded. No pun intended. And they're definitely doing whatever it is that they want to do. So, as bad as it is, it could be worse. And it probably is worse in some cases. But there's really nothing that we can do but, put it out there in hopes that somebody can step in and help, in this cause, because it's already an inhumane cause. And like I said, this doesn't help by no stretch of the imagination. It really, really is overkill, is what I think. You mean to tell me you can't put people in shackles and put people in handcuffs and they'll be just fine? Why? What is all this about? It's almost like they're trying to, show people that they're about business, they're tough guys, and truly and honestly, none of them really are. It seems like to me, most of the folks that's doing all of this, they probably was bullied at some point, or, they wasn't the type that just, walked around and just treated people any kind of way. They probably was on the receiving end of, getting treated whatever way, that to the point now where they just, they're in glee with these types of unhumane behavior. So we'll keep our eye on it, and if something else comes down the pike, we'll definitely speak about it. But this is crazy. I mean, they could just go old school. It ain't never been an issue with, handcuffs, and, legging cuffs or whatever they call them. That should suffice. And this is just, a bit overkill to me. So, but we'll keep our eye on it. We'll report back and let you know if need be. Okay, let's keep it moving. Where are we at here? Okay, the Department of Education just fired nearly all of its staff in its special education office. This could disrupt support and federal funding for students with disabilities nationwide. Um, Sorry about that. My mic was getting away. These employees were responsible for overseeing the Individuals with Disability Education Act. This is a law ensuring students get the help they need. Disability advocates are urging parents to closely watch local and state practices, as the loss of federal oversight means families may have to fight harder to ensure schools provide essential service and accommodations. Now, this is ridiculous, folks. Like, really, I get that you're trying to make a point, but you're going to just, drill down to, the ones who had no, idea that they were going to be in this type of situation, and know they are going to be disabled. We set it up where those less vulnerable were able to help and assist. And you mean to tell me now you're gutting the Department of Special Education? It doesn't make any sense at all to me. Like, why would you do that to these folks? Why would you do that to these parents who's already having a tough time? It's already tough enough. It's expensive enough. I've worked in that field for a number of years, and I just don't understand. This should have been the last thing, that they were looking at tinkering around with. I know they're trying to do whatever they're trying to do in the education system, but this should have been hands off. And you would think that the higher ups would understand that and know that and have some kind of sensibility behind it. but it just doesn't look like there's any type of sensibility, within this particular administration at this point. I haven't seen it. So to me, although this sounds crazy and people are in an uproar about it, it really doesn't, it kind of plays into their overall, uh, overall doing of things, so to speak. The things that they do, they're not leaving anybody untouched. And that means the people who have disabilities, people who are on Social Security, Black women, whatever that they deem, less than in their eyes, they're taking a hatchet to it. So as sad as this is, we'll keep our eye on it in hopes that somebody will step up and, make the necessary adjustments where this is not going to be an issue. I guess is in the process. They fired everybody. Hopefully they're bringing other folks in, hopefully programming and different, things that help this community hasn't been affected. But we'll keep our eye on it. I'm still in the space, so I'll know if something's going on and I'll report back if necessary. But this is crazy. I mean, come on, guys. This is a bit much. You don't have to go to this degree to prove a point when you're just hurting the less vulnerable who has nothing to do with anything. They're just, unfortunately, in a situation where they're less fortunate, and folks just are acting as if that's not something that they should be paying attention to. So we'll keep our eye on it. We'll let you know if something comes down the pipe, but this is just crazy to me. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, I just brought this up because we've all used Sharpies at some point or another, and I just they've always been a stable company. So just to see that they're keeping everything in the USA, I just felt like it was just something we should just highlight, because a lot of companies are taking things overseas, just in order to, be cost effective. But here, the marker company Sharpie says manufacturing their products in America turned out to be more cost effective than going overseas, saving thousands of jobs in rural Tennessee. And it is made in the USA. So we're going to, do big ups to that, claps, the whole 9 yards, because these types of things are important. Jobs are here, staying here in the United States. The product is a great product. You use it. We've been using it forever. And to know that they're keeping it in the USA, that's a great thing. So, big ups to, Sharpie. Is just going to make me want to endorse that product even more. You probably should do the same. All right. So let's keep it moving. Okay. All right. So President Trump's administration is reportedly considering canceling more than $1 billion in federal grants awarded to General Motors and Stellantis, Nevada, including roughly $800 million tied to projects in Michigan, according to a planning document obtained by the Detroit News. The proposed cuts would reverse funding previously allocated for electric vehicle manufacturing and clean energy expansion. Initiatives launched under the Biden administration, if enacted, the move could threaten hundreds of union jobs and slow Michigan's ongoing EV transition, a critical issue in the state's manufacturing economy. White House officials have not confirmed whether a final decision has been made, but the internal discussions have drawn sharp criticism from Michigan political leaders and auto worker unions, who argue the plan is politically motivated and jeopardizes future U.S. competitiveness in the global EV market. Supporters of the rollback contend that the grants represent wasteful spending and that automakers could rely on private investments rather than federal subsidies. The potential cancellation comes as Trump faces growing pressure to deliver on campaign promises to rebalance industrial policy and cut federal spending in regions seen as politically opposed to his administration. As of now, no official timeline for the decision has been released. Listen, this is how I feel about it. Why are we a country that's cutting out electric vehicles when we all see them on the streets every day? You see Teslas, you see Tesla trucks. I mean, it's clean energy. So to see, the president and the administration coming in and they're just, bullying folks because most folks may not agree with how they're going about doing their business. Michigan is a Democratic, city, state, or not city, but a state. So anybody that's our governor's a Democrat. So it's almost like he just got a hit list out for it, for individuals who don't agree with everything that he agrees with. And his way of making them, pay the price is by doing things like this. But really, it's only help. Democrats voted for him this time as well. And people are people at the end of the day. And if you're sitting there stopping folks from, feeding their families, paying their bills because of your ideology and because you don't, agree or someone doesn't agree with your ideology, is insane to me. Once again, it just seems like they are out here in the world, not helping people, but hurting people. And it doesn't matter, who the people are. It's just if you aren't on the same page as him, allegedly on some dictatorship-ish, then, he has a problem. And it's not just one person that he's hurting. It's a whole community of people that he's hurting by doing these things. Why not have everything? Why not have electric vehicles? Why not have gas vehicles? It's just, it's too late to say that people don't want to, be engaged in, electric vehicles. You see 1,800 million of them on the street every day. So we know people enjoy the product. We know people want to continue to enjoy the product. So why would you, because of your ideology, stop, allowing folks to be a part of the, the new technology? It doesn't make a lot of good sense to me. And then at the end of the day, I think it's going to all blow back. And, and those who didn't have the foresight to see that we're adjusting in the world, new things are always coming on board. New technology is always coming on board. And if you don't understand that and know that, then we'll end up being a country left behind, because you got everybody else in other countries that's full-fledged, full steam ahead with their, EV programs. So I just think to limit us as a country is insane to me. But we'll keep our eye on it, and we'll let you know if something changes. All right. Okay. All right. I thought this was interesting. Where is it at? No, that's not it. No, that's not it. Let me get to it, folks. Okay. So, women believe an attractive man who only makes $50K a year in this economy is the prize in the relationship, right? So the economy has some women reevaluating their standards and expectations of only wanting a man who earns six figures. That number is being cut in half and starting at $50K a year. Yeah, it's tough out here in these streets, right? So, and then to me, it really should be always a partnership anyway. So if the man's making 50, you making 50, that's 100. Then that's just going to give you more access, more buying power. So it shouldn't just be, I get women want men who can be a provider. I mean, that makes sense. I get it. But at the same time, we're not really living in that kind of world. I know the videos, the social media, postings and access allows you to think that men should be this, men should be that, women expectations are this, men's expectations are that. But at the end of the day, when you really stop and really think about it, unless you just out here tricking off or you just out here, being a gold digger, then anybody that you come into contact with and y'all decide to have a relationship, it's going to be what everybody brings to the table. And when you really start to look at what everybody brings to the table, then it allows you to grow from within. It allows you to grow that table because everything's on the table. Incomes, business ideas, so on and so forth. So, I get it. Women are starting to understand that the world is the world that we live in, and they can't just be as picky as they probably want to be, because everybody would want, all women want a man making six figures or more. I mean, that's just a sign of stability, a sign of, someone who's gotten their ish together to be able to go out there and earn that kind of income. But a lot of folks aren't earning that kind of income because a lot of folks just have regular jobs that ain't, paying six figures. But if you get a guy who's, 50, 60,000 and you 50, 60,000 in that range, then as a household, if y'all plot together, plan together, and execute together, then you don't have just a $50,000 income. You got, whatever that new income is with the, two of you guys together. So I just think folks need to start focusing on each other and what each other brings to the table, and stop picking and choosing income levels in order to determine if you're going to love somebody or not. To me, that's just insane. But we'll kind of keep our eye on it, and hopefully this is somewhat the case, because folks are trying to meet people that they can fall in love with, people that they can grow with, people that they can actually have a good thing with. And if everything's just based on income, then that's a shallow relationship anyway, because it's a lot more to a relationship than income. And a lot of times, if you meet the right person, despite what your income is, they can motivate you to go out and even get more, or they can allow you to put your dreams and aspirations on the table, and give you an opportunity to go after it. So we'll keep our eye on it. This is better though. I like folks are starting to make sense about what's really going on out here in this world. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right. So after Donald Trump openly campaigned for the Nobel Peace Prize, the big honor was ultimately given to someone else. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize on Friday, sidelining the president. Machado was awarded by the committee for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. The committee added, Maria Machado has shown that the tools of democracy are also the tools of peace. She embodied the hope of a different future, one where the fundamental rights of citizens are protected and their voices are heard. In the future, people will finally be free to live in peace. This is so ironic. Number one, she's, Hispanic. Number two, she won it because she's going from a dictatorship to a democracy. And then we have the folk or the man who's crying and screaming and hollering and trying to, do whatever he's trying to do to get the award. That's going the opposite direction. And he's expecting to get the award that, she got because she's doing what he should be doing. Instead of him allegedly thinking that he's a dictator, he should be thinking that he lives in the country that he's grew up in, been a part of, made his money in, whole 9 yards. That's always been a democracy. And now when you get some power and power goes to your head and you look around at these straw men who are dictators, you want a piece of that pie. You want that kind of power. And it's just here in America, it's going to be tough for you to get that kind of power. You can act that way all you want to, but at the end of the day, before it gets to that point, then, you're going to have some issues because people aren't going to just sit around and let you turn into a king. They got marches coming up this weekend where they're marching to No Kings is the name of the march, I do believe. And they're marching against this man, acting as if that's what he is, and he's not. So, we'll keep our eyes on that as well. We'll come back. We'll let you know, next week, kind of what's going on out here in this world. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, this was sad. So the district attorney office that investigated a December 2024 fatal crash that led to the arrest of Kareen Lacey found that the Louisiana State Police probe into the incident had several inconsistencies and disputed the police's characterization of the NFL hopeful's actions. Lacey was a star wide receiver for Louisiana State University before declaring for the NFL draft in 2024, was arrested in January and charged with negligent homicide in connection with the December 17, 2024 crash that led to the death of a 78-year-old man. Days before a grand jury was set to hear the case, Lacey died by suicide, according to officials. He was only 24 years old. But according to the DA's report, the evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kareen Lacey should have known that his actions were the cause of the crash. Wow. I mean, what can you say about this? This is it's just a tragedy all across the board. The person who passed away, and then this young man not being able to live his life, based off of the commitment that he made to football. He was a great athlete, was on his way to becoming a great NFL player. And because of the pressure of what could potentially happen, he unalived himself allegedly. So, we just send prayers to his family. We send prayers to the person who passed away and their family. But this was just a tragedy that, could have been avoided. If everybody would have just been up front, on the front end, this man would have had an opportunity to understand that, his life wasn't going to be affected in the way that he thought it was going to be affected. And, it because of the pressure and, the negative publicity that was all around him, and the opportunity that he worked so hard to get and maintain was just was just taken away from him right in front of his face when he was in the process of going to the next level. So it's just sad overall. I just wanted to talk about it because his name shouldn't go in vain, because unfortunately, if what happened, we don't ever want to see that because we all know what the repercussions of unaliving yourself could potentially be, and not just you, your family, your fans, your loved ones, so it's just sad. But we just send our prayers out to him and his family. And all those who were involved. And, the police, get your ish together. Stop doing unnecessary things to make whatever it is that you're saying true when it's not true. Get it together, folks, for real. This shouldn't have happened at all. All right, so let's keep it moving. Okay, so this is crazy. A single mother in Florida says her local HOA is threatening legal actions against her 5-year-old son, all because he swung on a tree while waiting at the school bus stop. Ariel Barner says she lived in her Orlando neighborhood for just 6 months when the HOA president allegedly began watching her kids from afar, later issuing a violation notice accusing her son of being a public nuisance. She was then slapped with a $382 legal bill for damages they claim he caused by climbing a magnolia tree and touching a rock. Barner isn't the only one speaking out. In this episode of SR Investigates, other Black homeowners across the country are sharing similar HOA horror stories, raising bigger questions about power, race, and homeowner rights. Oh my God. I don't know what kind of world we're living in. I mean, you got appraisals. And once again, why can't black folks just be free? We didn't did so much for this country. We didn't took so much abuse for 400 plus years. We it's almost like they don't want to see the upward trajectory of African Americans here in the United States because they just feel that we're one step away from truly being who we really and truly are. So it's almost like they're doing like the little things. Number one, they don't want us in these neighborhoods because black folks, out here doing what they're supposed to do so they can live wherever they want to live. But once again, that underlying ability to be racist always, peeks its head up, and do things like this. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's white kids running around that same neighborhood doing some of the same things. They're kids. Of course, they're going to be climbing on trees and playing on rocks, and if it's just, if it's trees that aren't supposed to be touched or whatever the case may be, you make that known. And if folks, for whatever reason, this happens, then that's one thing. But if not, then you got to let this kind of stuff, move. Kids are going to be kids. That don't mean you just go ahead and, bring legal efforts to these families, charge them, whatever monies you're going to charge them. It's just a hot mess to me. I don't get it. This looks like a real nice family who's, taking care of their business, just trying to live like how, we all are trying to live. We keep our mouths closed. We go about our business, but we want to be able to live where we want to live without all this backlash because it's a 5-year-old who barely can speak, or I mean, of course they could speak, but don't even have their thoughts all the way together to be, getting penalized, or the family of a 5-year-old is being penalized because he's climbing up on a tree and, touching a rock. This is just stupidity to me. I know they were doing the same thing with appraisals. Folks would have to take their pictures down and put up pictures of white folk in order to get the true value on their properties. Now we're HOAs all across the country are doing things. I've seen one HOA was, foreclosing on a property. I didn't even know they had the ability to foreclose on folks' properties. $600,000 house they were trying to take from this lady because she didn't make some small payment or something. It was just ridiculous. So we're going to keep our eyes on the HOAs and the appraisals, companies around, around the world, just to, bring light to this, because this is ridiculous. It's unnecessary and nobody should have to go through this. Right. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right. So that's all of our topics today. Let's talk about our real estate hacks real quick, and then we're going to bring up our folks to do our deep dive. But our hack number one is the title credit flip. If you buy and assign contracts often, negotiate title credit with your title company. It's a kickback in the form of closing cost credits or expedited closing, saving up to $1,000 per deal, right? So that's our hack number one. Hack number two, the DSCR piggyback strategy. Combine a DSCR loan with a personal line of credit to front rehab costs, then refinance within 90 days. You will flip faster and keep liquidity instead of draining your savings. All right. So hack number three, the zero cash JV hack. Partner with property owners sitting on idle equity. You handle marketing, staging, or tenant placement, then provide the property. Split profits 50-50, and there's no loan needed, right? So hack number four, the zoning pivot play. Research rezoning maps before purchasing. A single neighborhood zoning shift can increase your property value 30 to 50%. Investors who spot those trends early win big. All right. So that is our 4 mortgage and real estate hacks for today, folks. Hope you appreciate those. We've given you over 100 plus of those. So you can always go back, look at the different ones that we have shared with you. And if you can use them, use them. All right. Okay. All right. So let's do this. Let's bring in our folks. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to come down.
Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so picture this. You've been working for months, you find this amazing property, and bam, the seller accepts your creative offer. You know, the one that sidesteps the banks.
Yeah, that's a huge moment. Thrilling.
Totally. But then, like, immediately, this whole other clock starts ticking, right? It gets kind of scary fast. You suddenly don't need your loan officer. You need like a legal ninja.
Exactly right. And that's the world we're diving into today. We're looking at the kind of support structure that providers like Creative TC offer. Because once you step off that standard mortgage path, wow.
The complexity just shoots up.
It really does. We're talking high stakes deals, really tight timelines, and some pretty intense contract work. Our source material here, it maps out their services, their pricing, basically how they help clients do better deals.
Which sounds like code for avoiding legal nightmares.
Pretty much. It's navigating these really specific rules, avoiding those big mistakes.
Okay, so our mission today, let's try and decode this whole specialized service model. We'll use their setup, their costs, their expertise list, kind of like a roadmap to figure out how creative financing actually works on the ground.
Yeah, think of it as a briefing for you, the listener. What help do you actually need and why, especially when that clock is ticking loud?
Right, so let's jump straight into that first moment, that urgency. The sources are clear. You need the right contract fast. Got to lock it down.
Hmm.
And that's where their like entry level service comes in. The contract write up starts at $197.
Yep, $197. And that price, it tells you something important straight away.
What's that? Speed.
Speed, definitely. And standardization, you're getting quick drafting, accuracy based on their templates. But crucially, you're not getting custom legal advice or negotiation help for that price.
Ah, okay. So it's about getting the standard stuff down on paper quick.
Exactly. It signals that this initial contract part, while vital, is maybe the least complex piece, assuming your info is right. It's execution at this stage, not deep strategy.
That makes sense. That distinction's important. So, okay, you get the contract signed. Where does the real like strategic guidance start when things get tricky?
Right, that's where their transaction management service seems to fit. Starts at $1,000.
Okay, quite a jump from $197.
It is. And this is clearly positioned as the risk management layer. It goes way beyond just the paperwork shuffle. They talk about consulting all the way through.
And making the client smarter.
Yeah, walk away smarter. That's the phrase they use. So that $1,000 isn't just for managing the closing process. It's like an investment in learning how to do this right and avoiding mistakes that, frankly, could cost way, way more down the line.
Okay, so they're not just doing it for you, they're teaching you. To give you a clear picture, Creative TC actually lays out their whole method. They call it a proven process, 5 steps.
Yeah, it's very structured, which honestly you absolutely need when you're doing these non-standard deals. Keeps things from going off the rails.
So what are the steps?
Okay, so step 1, shared understanding. Basically, everyone agrees on the weird terms of this deal. Step 2, get the right contract written up, like we just talked about.
Okay, standard enough so far.
Right, but step 3 is where creative finance really shows its colors. Finding the right title company.
Why is the title company such a big deal here? Isn't it always important?
Oh, it's critical in a normal deal, sure. But here, you might be doing a contract for deed or a sub-tow deal where the seller's loan stays in place. A lot of standard title companies, they'll just panic.
Really, they won't touch it.
Some won't. Or they won't insure it properly because it's not their usual checklist. So finding a title company that actually gets creative finance and is willing to work with it, that's a huge hurdle. Huge.
Yeah, okay, didn't realize that.
Yeah. So after you find the right title partner, step 4 is manage escrow, and step 5 is just close the deal. But you've done it your way, hopefully with all the legal bits sorted.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the really scary stuff, the big financial landmines. The service with the highest price tag mentioned is due on sale remediation. Starts at $4,000, $4,000.
Yep, that's the big one.
Fixing the dreaded due on sale, that price tag alone tells you we're not talking about minor paperwork issues anymore. This is like code red territory.
Absolutely. Think of that due on sale clause in most mortgages like a tripwire. If you take over a property subject to the seller's loan and the bank finds out the ownership changed without their okay, boom.
They can call the whole loan due, like right now.
The entire remaining balance immediately. It's a potential financial catastrophe for an investor. Total wipeout scenario sometimes.
So that $4,000, that's basically emergency surgery, financial triage.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. It's what you pay to try and stop the bleeding after the lender potentially hits the alarm button. The cost reflects just how complex and high risk that situation is.
What does the service actually involve?
Well, the source says it's about helping clients figure out their options, building a specific plan for their mess. It's going to be a super custom work, maybe negotiation tactics, legal arguments, maybe even trying to refinance under pressure. It's all hands on deck.
Man, it really hammers home that fixing a problem in this space is just way, way more expensive than setting it up right in the first place.
Oh, exponentially more expensive. Prevention is key.
Which brings us to their other knowledge-based service, consultation. Starts at $225. The list of topics they consult on is basically a cheat sheet for where things get technically tricky in creative finance.
Yeah, this list is gold. It shows they're not just generalists. They know the specific pain points. They list subtow, wraps, landlording, lenting, contracts, and even demand letters.
These aren't your average real estate chat topics.
Not at all. This is specialized stuff. Deep expertise required.
Okay, let's quickly unpack the 2 big ones you mentioned for anyone listening who's maybe newer to this. Subtow and wraps. What are they, basically, and why the need for specific consulting?
Sure. So subtow, short for subject tow, that's when you, the buyer, take ownership of the property. You get the deed, but the seller's original mortgage stays in place in their name. You just agree to make the payments.
Okay, sounds risky for the seller.
It can be, yeah. And for the buyer, too, if not documented perfectly. You need ironclad agreements protecting everyone. Then there's a wrap or wraparound mortgage. Here, the seller acts like a mini bank. They keep their original loan going, but they create a new, slightly larger loan for you, the buyer, that wraps around the first one. You pay the seller pays the original bank.
Also sounds complex.
Very. In both cases, the paperwork isn't standard bank stuff at all if you mess it up. You could easily trigger that due on sale clause we just talked about or create huge problems if payments get missed somewhere along the chain.
So that $225 consult is basically insurance to make sure your structure is sound from the get-go.
Exactly. It's about making sure your deal can actually withstand legal scrutiny if things go sideways. Preventative medicine.
Make the total sense. These strategies, they require constant attention to detail, don't they?
Absolutely. Vigilance is the word. Now, beyond that core management and the crisis stuff, Creative TC lists a whole toolkit of other specialized services too.
Right, things for different stages or needs.
Yeah, exactly. Like lending right up probably for structuring private loans and self-performed closing, which sounds like giving the investor more direct control over the final steps. Maybe saving some costs, but taking on more responsibility.
And then there were a couple of really specific, almost legal-sounding tools listed too. Nominee signatures and DOSGuard. What are those about?
Yeah, those are definitely advanced risk management tools. Nominee signatures, that likely involves situations where the actual buyer wants to remain anonymous, maybe for privacy or strategic asset protection.
So using someone else to sign legally?
Sort of, yeah. It requires careful legal structuring to make sure the deal is valid while protecting the true owner's identity. It's not simple.
Okay. And DOSGuard, you mentioned the $4,000 remediation. Is the guard the fence before the cliff?
Exactly. DOSGuard sounds like the preventative measure. It's the anti-triage. It's probably a proactive strategy, maybe specific trust language, documentation techniques designed from the start to make it much harder for a lender to successfully call the loan due.
Oh, so you pay for the guard up front
Right, likely much, much less than the $4,000 remediation fee.
to avoid that potential catastrophe later.
Precisely. It's a classic example. Pay a bit now for prevention, or risk paying a lot later for the cure.
The level of precision needed here is just wow. And you can really see the depth they operate at when you look at their blog topics. It's not high-level fluff. It's deep dives into tiny, critical legal differences.
Oh yeah, the article titles sound like exam questions for a specialized law course. It really proves that success in this game boils down to getting the terminology exactly right.
What were those titles again?
Okay, the first one, what's the difference between a deed, contract for deed, deed of trust, and a trust?
Whoa, okay, if you mix those up, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, like a multi-thousand-dollar mistake waiting to happen.
Absolutely. Each one of those words, deed, contract for deed, deed of trust, trust dictates totally different things about who owns what, when, and what happens if someone defaults. Get it wrong, and the whole deal's foundation is shaky.
And the other articles.
The second was types of wrap mortgages, and the third, what's the difference between a subtoe and a wrap? It just shows, even within these niches, there are sub-layers of complexity you have to understand.
It's definitely not real estate investing 101. Okay, so if the deals are this complex and things can go wrong fast, getting help quickly must be absolutely critical for their clients. How easy is it to actually reach them?
Yeah, accessibility seems baked into their model. They clearly get that problems don't just pop up conveniently during office hours.
Right, an uh-oh moment can happen Sunday night.
Exactly. So the sources mentioned a few ways to connect. There's a free consult option, good for lowering the barrier to entry. There's a direct phone number listed, 307-429-2947. But maybe the most telling thing,
What's that?
they have a live virtual office available Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time.
A virtual office, not just email support.
Right. It signals they're set up for real-time problem-solving and strategy discussions. Not just back-and-forth emails over days. It matches the speed needed in this field.
That's a strong signal, yeah. It shows they're ready for those urgent calls.
Definitely. They're offering that specialized brain power when you need it, knowing that delay could literally cost thousands, like with that $4,000 remediation fee. And while they have a physical address in Kansas City, Kansas, the setup feels designed for remote, immediate support wherever the deal might be.
This has been super insightful, really peeling back the layers on the operational side of creative finance. I think the big takeaway for you, the listener, has to be this. Making a creative deal work isn't just about finding a willing seller. That's maybe the easy part.
Could be, yeah.
The real challenge, the part where deals live or die, is navigating these super specific, high-stakes legal and contract hurdles. Success really seems to depend entirely on getting expert, fast help to handle terms like subtoe, wraps, and crucially, avoiding or fixing that due on sale clause.
Absolutely spot on. The deals are won and lost in the details. In the fine print. which brings us perfectly to our final thought for you to chew on. This comes straight for the kind of technical depth we saw in their materials.
Okay, lay it on us.
Given how much emphasis this provider puts on knowing the difference between things like a deed, a contract for deed, a deed of trust, and a trust, how could one tiny mistake right at the start, choosing the wrong one of those, or drafting it slightly incorrectly, how could that initial error blow up the cost and complexity of fixing things later, like contributing to needing that multi-thousand-dollar remediation?
Wow. Yeah, it completely reframes how you think about that cheap initial contract write-up, doesn't it?
Right.
Getting that foundational document wrong, it's not just a typo, it's like you're pre-booking a massive future headache and expense. It really shows that doing better deals means understanding the cost of getting the legal structure wrong from day one.
Precisely. Think about that initial cost of maybe getting slightly better advice up front versus the potential cost of fixing a major legal flaw later under pressure. That's the real bottom line here.
Okay, man, we're back. That was our deep dive on Creative TC. Their motto lets busy investors scale up. No more chasing signatures, amendments, or disclosures. Creative TC automates it all. Think of them as the air traffic control tower of real estate, keeping every moving part in sync. No deals don't crash before closing. That is important in this business because a lot of times you do see, folks get to a certain stage in the process, and because of title, things it can go awry. But anyway, man, this weekend we got the TSU Howard homecoming. TSU, my alma mater. Can't wait to get down there. We're gonna do it BIG. I'll probably be going live just to kind of give you guys some insight on what's happening out there in them streets. But it's gonna be a movie. I promise you that. But in the meantime, in between time, if you're a new investor or a seasoned pro, remember creating closing deals. Use today's 4 hacks if you need to. Learn from the Creative TC's playbook and make 2025 the year you scale smarter. I'm G Money, your humble host, and this is the Mortgage Mayhem, where real estate meets real talk. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week on the next episode. I appreciate seeing a lot of people chiming in today. I like to see that. It just kind of keeps me motivated to keep coming here and bringing information to you guys, real estate information, real life information. So I appreciate you guys' time, the ones who have chimed in. And once again, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's get this membership up. We got, we ain't doing bad, but we could be doing better. Once again, take care of yourself. Have a great weekend. I know I will. Be safe out there. I know I will. And I'll see you guys next week. All right, I'm out.